Hello everyone, welcome back to video number 2 of our study through the book of Galatians. The section we're going to be covering today comes from Galatians chapter 1, verses 6 through 10. Before I begin, I actually want to begin by asking you a question, just a random question, but the question is, what is your favorite kind of candy? Okay, so any candy that in the world, like it's your favorite kind and you just love it and you got to have it. Whatever it is, either comment on the Facebook page or comment on the YouTube channel below of what your favorite candy is, because it may benefit you later. These are talking directly to my students right now. So students, whatever your favorite candy is, make sure you comment on this video because it may benefit you. So today we're going to be covering, as I said, Galatians 1, verses 6 through 10. I want to begin by reading verses 6 through 7. This is what it says. I am astonished that you are so quickly deserting the one who called you to live in the grace of Christ and are turning to a different gospel, which is really no gospel at all. Evidently, some people are throwing you into confusion and are trying to pervert the gospel of Christ. Something you need to know about the book of Galatians is that there are people messing with the gospel. Okay, so there are people coming in and saying that you have to add certain things to the gospel. And what Paul does in this letter is defend the gospel. He's saying, no, you don't listen to them. That they are preaching a false gospel. They are preaching something that is not true. And so throughout this letter of Galatians, he is going to be defending the gospel that he has received from Jesus himself. And so as he is talking here in verses 6 through 7, it seems that the gospel that maybe these people are presenting is not God-centered. It's rather centered on people. It's drawing people away from God and making them focus more on themselves. And that's not what the gospel is all about. It's always centered on Jesus and who Jesus is. And so Paul, through verses 6 through 7, is actually rebuking the church. That first phrase, I am astonished, that is actually a very familiar phrase within the Greek letters that were written in Paul's time as a rebuke. That phrase actually tends to be a rebuke to people. And so he's rebuking them. He's saying, why are you going after this gospel? Well, actually, it's no gospel at all, but why are you even going after it? Why are you going after such a thing? And so throughout this letter, we will see that he is trying to defend what the true gospel is, the one gospel that he has received from Jesus. Let's continue on by reading verses 8 through 9. This is what it says. But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach a gospel other than the one that was preached to you, let them be under God's curse. As we have already said, so now I say it again. If anybody is preaching to you a gospel other than what you accepted, let them be under God's curse. Here's what Paul's trying to say. Anyone who adds to the gospel or messes with the gospel will be eternally condemned. So this is serious business. Like, Paul is going after some people who are trying to mess with the gospel. And the main thing here in verses 8 and 9 is don't mess with it. Let it be what it is. It is centered and focused on the story of Jesus. And so he continues on in verse 10. This is what it says. And now, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. Maybe right here in verse 10, Paul is trying to refer to people who are saying that he is trying to lessen the gospel, that he is trying to say that the gospel is easy to follow. And Paul says, no, that's not at all what I'm trying to say. I'm actually a servant of Christ, winning his approval and not that of human beings. So he's going to preach what is the very truth. And that's what you will see throughout this letter to the church in Galatia. As I was thinking through a reflective question this morning, I couldn't come up with one, but I did come up with a challenge. And this challenge is difficult. So I know maybe many of you won't do it, but I really encourage you to do so because it is so important to your faith. What I challenge you to do is read through the Gospel of Mark. It's the shortest gospel we have, or any of the other gospels. You can read whatever one, but I encourage you to read the Gospel of Mark. And what I want you to do is come up with a definition of what you think the gospel is. Send that to me through Facebook Messenger or text message me or put it in the comments section below. But you don't have to do that today. I encourage you to do so. But throughout this month, at the end of April, will you have a definition of the gospel? I'm going to keep bringing it up. And I really am challenging you to do this because it'll be so important to you. Because what happens if someone comes to you and says, well, this is what the gospel is? Well, do you know if that's the gospel or do you not know if that's the gospel? So I challenge you today, throughout the rest of this month, to read either through the Gospel of Mark or Matthew or Luke or John and come up with your definition of the gospel. Send it to me and let us see what the gospel is. I can't wait to talk to you on Friday. Have a great rest of your day. Love you.